One goalie might be injured for the Devils, and a former Devils goalie is on the move. And also, Jacque Lemaire will be inducted into the Devils Ring of Honor in January. There's a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed him. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here at the Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play announcer, Devils writer of Pucks Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. When this episode goes live, the New Jersey Devils will play later tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Remember, this is a team they lost to in their home opener. I was in the press box for that game, and the Devils got burned by the Maple Leafs' bottom six players. Not really a good showing in front of their home base, especially coming back from Prague. But you know what? That's been the name of the game for the Devils all season long. It seems like they struggle more at home compared to when they're on the road. And that was quite evident in their previous matchup against the Colorado Avalanche, in which they got shut out. But I'm not going to hash that wound even further. What's on the agenda for today's episode? In the first segment, my friends over at Locked On Senators always say their show is goalie friendly. So that's what we're going to focus on to kick off today's episode. A former Devils goalie is on the move, and he will reunite with a few of his Devils teammates in Colorado. Mackenzie Blackwood. It's been a minute since I've talked about Mackenzie Blackwood on this show, but I do want to touch on his new circumstance with the Avalanche. Then in the second segment, Jacque Lemaire will be inducted into the Devils Ring of Honor. I want to talk about the subject and also play a soundbite from an interview that I conducted with Ken Danico a while back, because I see a lot of people saying that Jacque Lemaire deserves no credit just because he ran a trap system and it made hockey boring to watch. I do want to touch on that subject just a little bit, because I think it is complete bogus that people are giving Lemaire all this crap. He is the winningest coach in Devils history. He definitely deserves that honor. Don't worry, the hate is not coming from Devils fans, just casual NHL fans. Then in the third and final segment, I did mention that the Devils got shut out in their previous matchup against the Avalanche, and they've already been shut out 5 times this year. I want to touch on that subject just a little bit more, because I think it's a bigger problem than people realize. I'm not saying wave any red flags or anything like that. There isn't really that much to be concerned with when it comes to this year's Devils team. But when they're losing, more likely than not, they're going to get shut out. And that can't happen. All right, let's talk about Mackenzie Blackwood and his new circumstance with the Colorado Avalanche. Alexander Georgiev is heading to San Jose. Mackenzie Blackwood is packing his bags for Mile High City. Now, there are a few other assets involved in this trade, including Giovanni Smith, but I want to focus on the centerpiece, which is Mackenzie Blackwood. As we all know, the Devils moved on from Mackenzie Blackwood at the conclusion of the 2022-2023 season. He didn't see any playing time during the playoffs. The team decided to go with Vitek Vanecek and Akira Schmid moving forward. Obviously, that did not work out, but that's beside the point. It was time for the organization and Mackenzie Blackwood to move on, and I think both parties realized it, because when I spoke to Blackwood a couple years ago, he just said he wanted to go where the opportunity best fit, and I don't think that fit was going to be with New Jersey. Now, some of the issues he dealt with wasn't really on him. I think he sort of got the same treatment as Corey Schneider, which is he was a young goalie. He was given a lot of responsibilities, and Unfortunately, he dealt with a decent amount of injuries, and I think that sort of derailed his career. And it was wash, rinse, repeat with Blackwood, which is he starts off solid, but then he gets injured. He finishes the season on a sour note. Then going into the offseason, you have expectations for him to perform better, but he could never reach them. Sometimes he would meet those expectations, but he would never exceed them. It was time for Mackenzie Blackwood to get out of New Jersey and start fresh elsewhere. He got dealt to the San Jose Sharks, and I think we all know the San Jose Sharks aren't competing for anything anytime soon. I mean that respectfully. For right now, it seems like they're really big on their young movement in Macklin Celebrini, who was the first overall pick just a few months ago. And they got a veteran piece in Tyler Toffoli. I'm sure the Sharks' future is very bright, but for right now, they're not competing for anything. And for someone like Mackenzie Blackwood, I think he deserved a little bit better. That's just my personal opinion, because I don't think Mackenzie Blackwood was ever a bad goalie. Just sometimes circumstances didn't play into his favor. This season with San Jose, he had a record of 6-9, a 3.00 goals against average, a 911 save percentage, and he recorded one shutout so far this year. And that came at the hands of the Devils, but I'm not going to discuss that. I'm happy for Blackwood, and I'm excited to see what he can do on a somewhat competitive team. Now, the Central is stacked for the most part because you got the Minnesota Wild, the Winnipeg Jets, and don't look now, but if the Utah Hockey Club and also St. Louis Blues, if they go on a decent winning streak, they're right back into the playoff hunt. Just putting that out there. But teams like Nashville and Chicago, they're pretty far down the list, and I don't think anyone is scared of them. In fact, the Blackhawks fired their head coach recently. But going back to Mackenzie Blackwood, he's now reunited with a few of his Devils teammates, Miles Wood and obviously Scott Wedgwood, who also recorded a shutout against the Devils. I'm excited to see what Mackenzie Blackwood can do for the Avalanche. I don't think they're favorites to win the Stanley Cup, but they're a legitimate playoff team. They got the reigning Hart Trophy winner, Nathan MacKinnon, on their squad. I just wanted to talk about Blackwood, give him some credit, and express my congratulatory remarks toward him because I think he did deserve better compared to his circumstance with San Jose. Let's see what he could do with Colorado, who is in desperate need of some better goaltending, which is why they got Scott Wedgwood and now Mackenzie Blackwood. Buying low, but hopefully the turnout can be high. All right, let's talk about another goalie subject, and this has to do with a current player on the Devils roster, and that is Jake Allen. Why are we talking about Jake Allen? Well, Sheldon Keefe revealed that Jake Allen is questionable going into the next matchup against the Maple Leafs. We don't know when his injury occurred against the Avalanche. It could have happened when he was trying to make a save, came up hobbling a little bit, and maybe sometime overnight it just got a little worse. He wasn't out there for practice, and Sheldon also revealed that Jake is going to get reevaluated. What's going to happen with the goaltending tandem? Obviously, Jacob Markstrom will get the start against the Maple Leafs, but who's going to back him up in case Jake Allen is a no-go for the matchup? Well, you could look at Nico Daws. Now, here's the thing. Nico Daws was listed day-to-day recently, but I spoke to some people over at Pucks and Pitchforks. Daws got the weekend off. He might be good to go. This year for Daws hasn't been the strongest of showings. His overall record is 3-8-1. He has a 3.11 goals against average, an 897 save percentage, and he's recorded one shutout so far. But Daniel Moya of the Hockey Writers actually put something into perspective. He said, look at his more recent starts, because as we all know, Utica got off to a very bad start to their season. In fact, they fired Kevin Dineen as a result. But Daws and the Comets have looked better recently. Daws has a 936 save percentage over his last 6 starts and has won 3 straight games. And if you take out his clunker on November 1st, his season save percentage in his other 12 game appearances is .913. Once again, you just need someone to back up Jacob Markstrom. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it's nothing too serious, and at the worst, maybe it's day-to-day for Jake Allen. We'll see what happens, but there's your update regarding current Devils goalies and former Devils goalies. All right. Before we continue and talk about Jacque Lemaire, today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money, whether it's hockey, football, or any other favorite sport. Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can win up to 200 times your money on Prize Picks. Get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. No need to win. The $50 is guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers fun weekly promotions like Taco Tuesday, where select players' projections are discounted up to 25%. This week on Prize Picks, I'm eyeing the hockey board, looking at Jack Hughes for more than 4 shots on goal and Artemi Panarin for more than 1 assist. It's so simple to make my picks and have fun with friends while potentially cashing out fast. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. Jacque Lemaire, the franchise winningest head coach in history and bench boss for the 1995 Stanley Cup championship team, will be inducted into the Devils Ring of Honor on Wednesday, January 22nd, when the team hosts the Boston Bruins. Lemaire will be the club's 3rd Ring of Honor inductee, joining Dr. John McMullen, inducted in 2017, and Sergei Brylin, who was inducted last year. The selection of Lemaire was made by the Ring of Honor Committee. The committee created last year decides all future inductees, includes all 5 players who have their numbers retired by the organization, including Scott Stevens, Ken Danico, Scott Niedermayer, Mark Tambro-Dewar, and Patrick Eliash, the 2 Ring of Honor inductees. You got Peter McMullen on behalf of the McMullen family and Sergei Brylin, as well as select media and team executives. Here's what David Blitzer had to say in regards to Jacque Lemaire. Quote, Jacque Lemaire played an integral role in establishing the championship culture synonymous with New Jersey Devils that we still strive for today. Jacque was the consummate winner who had the ability to teach his players what it took to get to the next level, and we are proud to name him as the club's 3rd ever inductee into our Ring of Honor. Lemaire began his NHL head coaching career with the Montreal Canadiens during the 1983-1984 season and was hired by the Devils in 1993. He led New Jersey to its 2nd Eastern Conference Finals appearance in his 1st season and earned the franchise 1st ever Stanley Cup championship in 1995. Remember, the Devils were heavy underdogs going into that series against the Detroit Red Wings. Hell, they were underdogs throughout the course of the playoffs. I don't think anyone picked them to be the ones hoisting up the cup. And that Red Wings team had many, many, many Hall of Famers on their roster. And yet the Devils broke out the brooms and came away with the sweep against the team that calls himself Hockey Town. And I'm sure the octopus was extra salty in the Motor City. I couldn't help myself. I'm so sorry. But anyway, getting back on track. During his first coaching stint with New Jersey, he guided the team to a 199, 122, and 57 overall record. That's a .602 winning percentage in 378 regular season contests and a 34-22 record in 56 playoff games. The Devils finished 1st in the Eastern Conference under Lemaire in 1997 and 1998. And clinched a postseason berth in 4 out of the 5 years under Lemaire's first coaching run in New Jersey. Lemaire won the Jack Adams Trophy in 1994. He stepped down from his head coaching role with New Jersey on May 8th, 1998, and he was named the first coach in Minnesota Wild franchise history in 2000. But there's this old saying, no place like home. Lemaire later returned to New Jersey for the 2009-2010 season and guided the club to an Atlantic Division title with a record of 48, 27, and 7, 103 points. Although Lemaire stepped down as coach in April, he returned the following season December 2010 to take over the team that had a 9-22-2 record. Lemaire's return also witnessed the Devils earn an NHL best 22-2 record from January 9th to March 6th, 2011. Lemaire's 276 career regular season wins and 35 postseason victories rank first in franchise history. In his career, he's coached the 20th most games in NHL history and has the 22nd most wins. Once again, can you say the winningest coach in franchise history? Now, I saw some of the responses from casual NHL fans, and they were saying like the Devils ran a trap defense and they were boring to watch. They weren't really a great offensive unit. Well, in summer 2023, I conducted an interview with Mr. Devil himself, Ken Danico, and he spoke about Jacque Lemaire and what he brought to the Devils organization. I will play that soundbite back. Take a listen. So the Devils were controversial because a lot of people were saying that you guys ran a trap defense and it made the games less exciting. However, Bruce told me that the word trap wasn't in your guys' dictionary. How would you respond to the naysayers stating that the trap defense made the game deteriorating?
Well, I've talked about it too much. It's ridiculous, really. I mean, you play to win. Jacque Lemaire played on the Flying Frenchman. It came from the Montreal Canadiens system, how to defend, how to cut the ice in half. And then I always go, yeah, we never heard the word trap. That was made by the media. Obviously, Jacques never mentioned trap. It was be responsible defensively, cut the ice in half, make sure before you pinch 100% that you're going to get the puck. So, and then counterattack. And Jacques played with the Montreal Canadiens, the great Canadian teams that were winning all these cups that had a ton of skill. Our team had a ton of skill. What people don't realize is we scored a ton of goals. We were always near the top of the league in goals for. We just so balanced out, but nobody mentions that. They think we played a defensive system that didn't score a lot. That was opposite. If you looked into after Lemaire had left even, and everybody talks about the trap in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, 2000 when we won the Stanley Cup, we were second in the league in goals for. 2001 when we lost to Colorado, I believe we were number one in the National Hockey League. Nobody brings that up. Number one in the league during the regular season in goals for. So, like I said, they kept the narrative along the way, but it had changed. But yes, ask any team today. Defense wins championships, goaltending, good structure. Ask the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, this year, that hasn't changed. You got to be able to defend.
I will leave a link in the description if you want to check out the full interview that I did with Ken Danico. Once again, that interview took place in summer 2023, but he's absolutely right. The Devils were still a high-octane offensive unit, and people don't really talk about that all that much. And Dano also mentioned that the LA Kings, the team that beat the Devils in the Stanley Cup final in 2012, they didn't score that many goals, but yet no one really talks about that. I guess the narrative doesn't really fit. And I also spoke to Bruce Driver, and he said the word trap was not in their dictionary. So that's my thing. I get tired of when people just say Devils trap, Devils do this, Devils did that wrong. I'm just like, don't hate the player, hate the game. It came from the Montreal Canadiens playbook, and Jacque Lemaire, being the genius he was, he used it for the Devils' benefit, and he got a Stanley Cup out of it in 1995, beating the heavily favored Red Wings. So that's all I got to say, and congratulations to Lemaire. And I also want to say, I think someday we will see the great Brewhog, Bruce Driver, see his name in the Ring of Honor for New Jersey, maybe Chico Resch as well. Love to see Doc Emmerich up there. Those are just some names that come to mind. But for the time being, congratulations to Jacque Lemaire and this incredible accomplishment. All right. We're going to talk about the Devils' shutout woes momentarily, but before we continue, let me tell you guys about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Okay. I brought this problem up in the previous episode, but just to reiterate, the Devils got shut out for the 5th time this season. That's actually tied for the most in the NHL, along with Utah and Nashville. And both teams are not in the playoff picture. Just putting that out there. The Devils only got shut out 4 times last season. I made a mistake in the previous episode. I said 3. It was actually 4. Miscounted, but math is not my strong suit. The year prior, 2022, 2023, the Devils got shut out 0 times. And 5 of the 6 previous losses for New Jersey have resulted in a shutout. I put this out on social media and I said, this cannot keep happening. And some people were like, yes, this cannot happen. But at the same time, it still equals in a loss. It doesn't matter if the Devils lose 2-1 or 3-2 or just get shut out. A loss is still equal the same, which is nothing unless you take it in an OT, then you walk away with a point. But my thing is like the reason why this can't continue to happen is just because I think it's showing a weakness for New Jersey, because I think Sheldon Keefe touched on this during his media availability after the game, which is sometimes the Devils are a little too top heavy. They rely on the Nico Hischier line and the Jack Hughes line to generate some offense. What really helped the Devils earlier this year was the offensive production they were getting from their bottom 6. Like when Stefan Nason was paired alongside Paul Cotter and Eric Haula, you saw all 3 of those players be point per game players. I knew it wasn't going to last, but it was still incredible to see. Or Curtis Lazar goes down with an injury. Nathan Bastian goes down with an injury. Now your depth is a little spread thin. And I talked about that when that first occurred, which is the Devils are going to need some more bodies to fill out that 4th line. And Tomas Tatar just hasn't been the player that I thought he was going to be compared to a couple of years ago, but that's a subject for another time. Getting shut out, especially in the magnitude that the Devils have been shut out this year, this early, it can't continue to happen. You got to change it up a little bit, and you need to find some sort of momentum to go your way, because let's just envision that this is the playoffs. In a 7-game series, you're going to have to beat the same opponent 4 times. And if the Devils get shut out, that could be a huge momentum killer, because it's like, all right, this is how you play on the Jack Hughes line. This is how you play on the Nico Hischier line. This is how you shut them down. This is how you slow them down. They're way too top heavy. Just take them out the game, and the Devils are going to suffer because they don't have that much depth on their bottom 6. Now, we're going to have to wait to see how the season progresses. Obviously, Nathan Bastian, I think he's inching closer to returning. We still don't really have a true update on Curtis Lazar. All I can tell you is that rehab is going well. Still out indefinitely. No, he's not out for the rest of the season. I don't know where those rumors circulated from, but I'm just saying, like, getting shut out, especially 5 times this year already, and being tied for the most, along with 2 teams that are not in the playoff picture, that's not good. You need to figure that out. Especially like if the game's not going your way, you need to find something to hold your head high about. Like when the Devils went down 2-0 against the Rangers a couple years ago, yeah, it wasn't a good showing, but at least they scored a couple times and they're like, okay, we can generate some offense here or there, and maybe the winds will change into our favor. And it did. But obviously the big part was putting Akira Schmid in net and not Vitek Vanacek. But you get my point, which is if you lose a game and score a couple goals, at least you have some positive takeaways. If you get shut out, that's just embarrassing. Once again, you need some positivity to go your way if the odds aren't in your favor. But that's just my 2-cent opinion, which is I'm not going to raise the red flag and say, oh, this Devils team is this Devils team is that. Oh, they're so bad. No. There's not much to be concerned with when it comes to this year's Devils team. But I'm just saying, getting shut out 5 times already this year, that can't happen. That's just, once again, my personal opinion, and you're free to share your thoughts if you'd like. So leave a comment down below. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X Page app at TrainMat4 or the show's X Page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day in New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys next episode. Thanks for listening once again.